might recall, last year Soniqs went through that weird rotation where they only played Oregon and then they only played Clubhouse and they only played Console and they were only playing Chalet and they didn't really have a huge map pool. And Soniqs were mighty fine on this map, maybe not as strong as they used to be. Is that something that DarkZero might be excited by? As we get underway with the operator ban phase, by the way.
I think it is something they might be excited by, maybe taking advantage of SQ, adjusting their map pool, letting certain maps drop out. They think, okay, we're going to catch them off guard here. But at the same time, to go back to Playday 2, Border was a map that I know I saw Fresh tweet about it on Twitter, and I talked about it with some of my friends who watched the game. Border was a map that we were surprised to see DZ go to, so I would not be shocked following that previous loss that this might be a map that maybe SQ got over them, of course, at least for the ban so far. Definitely something that DZ on Oregon as well aren't going to be too surprised by. I mean, Flores coming out from SQ, just a very common ban on Oregon, a linear map, then following up with Thatcher Valkyrie. The map ban might be a surprise for DZ, who knows, but certainly the out bans have not been.
Both teams that are playing right now are quite well versed in their opponents. They're both going to be counter-stratting and doing all their homework
of course
in the background. Soniqs obviously have that coaching staff that involves Joe Bro as their analyst. Goddess, the former competitor, she used to play for Soniqs. She's joined them as their head coach. DarkZero, of course, has Mint behind the bench, and I can't recall if Grant is still doing analyst work or if he's been moved off of that, but he still does some analysis on Twitter, including compilations of the all of Canadians 1vx's that were put out the other day.
Yeah, Grant, I know Grant got moved to content a little while back, but he still got some of those, wonky statistics of very specific niche things that, to be fair, every time I see, I am always intrigued, and I do always click on them, so he does have a pretty good formula going. But DZ do have a very extensive support staff, and of course Soniqs also have their own support staff as well. How will this influence going into today? First map, or first site we have up, going to basement on Oregon. And for SQ right now, of course, we saw that Azami ban coming out as well. Given the lineup they're running, we have the Smoke, Jaeger, Wamai, Malusi, Warden. It looks like they're going to be sticking pretty close to the site. Doubt they're going to be moving too far off of this with the lineup we have running, except maybe, Super playing on backstairs for a little bit. I
was going to say, you're probably going to have the Jaeger playing over by Pillar, which will be the main entry point from Blue if you can't open up the walls. No Flores, which is an unsurprising ban for Soniqs, because there was that hilarious clip where Super was defending Elbow, and it was just Rotero drone after Rotero drone were thrown his way from stage number 1. And, well, he didn't hit a single one of them, I don't think. And I remember Nick just roasting him alive for that small deficiency. As I said, there's some deficiencies here in Soniqs' game. You were talking about roaming, by the way, and it was Rexon a little bit off-site as we get underway with round number 1. No Azami means that, well, the play around the actual bomb site is going to be a lot easier for the attackers. Of course, Azami has seen her ban rate continue to increase. We had one good play day where she had some prominence in terms of pick rate, but now teams are just opting to remove her. Sens is also available, but they haven't been played all that much. You saw Sens a couple times in the Challenger League this past weekend, but very limited numbers in terms of the NAL, EUL, and APAC.
Yeah, Sens has not had nearly as much prolific play as we have seen Azami in Pro League, and one of the things that you always have to consider is, okay, if we take an Azami off the board, that means we could leave a Valkyrie up. That's a very powerful operator. Of course, she's up right now, and Soniqs are opting not to play her, but that's mainly because of the type of hold they're going for, trying to stick very close to home. See a couple players playing aggressively on Freezer Stairs at the moment. Another common position, go for the little totem pole. 2 people peeking at the bottom of the stairs, and if somebody pushes in without a drone, you can get an easy pick. But DZ right now, very focused on opening up main and meeting. No Freezer focus at the moment.
No Freezer focus and no eyes towards Blue just yet. Most of DZ's forces on that main floor getting the job done, opening up with all of their hard destruction. They've got a Maverick and a Hibana to carry those duties halfway through the round, and there's been no real action at all. Rexon saw some bullets fly through the window first 20 seconds of play, but other than that, it's been all quiet for Soniqs as they bunker down on the bomb site.
Yeah, but this is where DZ really need to focus where they want to go with this take. I was about to say if they go for Freezer, they're going to have to focus on that Warden, but we see 3 players all of a sudden just hop over to bunker right now. Eclipse and Panba and NJR, all 3 of them sitting outside that double door right now. So it seems to be pretty clear that DZ, with a minute left, have a pretty good idea where they want to push this from, but still clearing out Pillar and Bunker. They need to do that, and they're running out of time.
There's the smoke to go in, and Adrenal Surge as there's extra damage taken from Pamba Zoo. Back tower stairs. Super starts things off. 1 kill is all he's going to get before he's traded out by the Pamba party. But the kill feed turning a very nice shade of orange. Soniqs dominating all across the way. A kill from Eclipse after the down early on in the midst of smoke. Narrowly avoiding more damage, but he's pinned down just by this pillar. You can head back to blue. 30 seconds left to find the 3 players from Soniqs. Things don't look great for DarkZero after they decide to waltz on in with about a minute on the clock, and they get met toe-to-toe with Soniqs, and Soniqs coming out ahead most of the time. Now it's Eclipse with a shotgun in the corner of Kansan, and Kansan wins that for round number 1, breaking in favor of Soniqs.
Yeah, so right there, DZ spent, a good minute and a half, 2 minutes just deciding where they want to push, and that's totally fine for Oregon, especially if the defense isn't putting any obstacles in your way on the middle floor. Take that time, drone some things out, open up all your options, open up those hatches, take as long as you want, of course, within reason. But then all of a sudden we see a very quick rotation down to the bunker doorway outside, and then, as you said, it just seemed they kind of rushed in. They didn't destroy, or it took a while. They did destroy the shield inside of Elbow, but I don't even think they did either. And Pillar Control was still in the control of the defense, and they seemed to try to have somebody move down back tower stairs to deal with that. But by the time everyone ran in, I don't know if it was a miscommunication or if it just was poor planning, but SQ was more than ready for it.
I mean, there was extensive droning from DarkZero as well. They would have known that there was nobody off site. It was a pretty typical play by the defense of Soniqs. You had somebody over towards Pillar, you had 2 in the actual bomb site, you had 1 watching Freezer, the Warden was floating inside of
normal
Laundry.
Angles.
Very normal angles, exactly. And I wonder if they were, maybe Soniqs were expecting Ying or expecting another operator with flash and heavy utility to come in and clear. Ying is not banned, by the way, which is not exactly always notable, but on a map like Oregon, with teams like DarkZero and SSG in particular, both of them really like to bring Ying. Soniqs do as well. Super will either sit on Buck or Ying. The fact that there's no Ying ban means that for the second round in a row, DZ are not taking advantage of an operator who is exceedingly strong in this meta. Soniqs were prepared for it, by the way. They're not so much this time around, no Warden being brought. So if there was that explosiveness, if there was that flashbang, I guess, cocktail on the board, Soniqs would be ill-prepared for it. The late pick, by the way, with Canadian was onto that Nook, another critical operator here, and that's where DZ stands.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We're not saying the Ying, but we are saying the Nook, another operator who, more so than Ying, has started creeping into the meta over the past year and has definitely even received quite a bit of bans in the NAL as well. So I'm interested to see where Canadian opts to just lurk around. He's over by that bunker double door right now. Wouldn't be surprised if in the mid-round he goes to solo clear any defenders down below or just to acquire that map control. There is someone on Freezer stairs at the moment that he will have to worry about. That's Yeti on the Goyo, but more than likely Yeti is fully anticipating that someone, probably Canadian, because he loves to go on this solo clear down in the basement, or might be coming after him.
And Nook is an operator that's played by multiple people on DarkZero as well. Canadian will be on flex, at least for this round, but don't be too surprised to see potentially NJR or Pambazoo on it as well. That flank from Yeti will need to get back to the bomb site at some point. We're about halfway through round number 2, and it's a double dorms defense. So not uncommon to see a Nitro cell played operator lurking below, especially knowing that default plant is going to be by the bottom of white stairs. If you can hang on to that as the defense, you're in great position to thwart a push from big window, a push towards bunks, even a rotate into the main dorms area. And Canadian, just a missed opportunity, but he ends up out-dueling Super. It doesn't matter who's younger or who's older. In that particular engagement, Canadian is better. Now it's Yeti on the flank, a bit belated with a grenade in hand, and the second for Canadian. He'll secure the down on Kansan, but he's going to look the wrong way. Yeti fires a bit too early, and now we'll see what they can do in this firefight. Head of Canadian spotted, Yeti can't control the vector, and he has to get out of there as he's basically out of munition. A nice shot onto Hyper. The backup for Canadian does not arrive. Nitro cell on in. Damage done to NJR. This action is happening very, very quickly, Carter. And we've seen Kansan get picked back up in the meantime.
Yeah, Soniqs have been able to take this time and start consolidating on the top floor and awaiting DZ's execute. So despite the fact that Canadian took really both Super and Yeti off guard, though he only got away with one of those kills, Yeti has done a great job stalling out the entirety of DZ's attack, even though their focus is on that top floor. It is a Dorm's defense. Rexon playing close on the breach right now, waiting for the push up right. Excellent shot by Yeti. Cuts down NJR at the bottom of white stairs, but there's one player there to still keep that facet of the push alive. It's Canadian to get the next kill. Finally, Eclipse goes on in. Rexon's here. He's been undroned. They're not even aware of his position. A second form potentially, though Pambazoo plays a great job dodging behind that shield, but only 3 seconds. Grixer has to land one singular shot to deny this defense or to get down Panba on the cover. 1 HP. No, he can't even land it. Single fire DMR getting the best of Grixer in this situation as DZ get their first round on the board.
Really sloppy end there. Rexon was in such a good spot, and DZ had spent, again for the second round, an extensive amount of time droning out, but they were so focused on the parts of the map where they wanted to get that diffuser down, that they didn't think what could be waiting for them inside of Closet. It's a bit of an unorthodox spot for Rexen to play off of. We don't usually see teams open up one wall in Closet and then play off of it. Most teams like that hard anchor style of defense where they seal up the wall, leave down a Kaid Electroclaw, maybe Bandit Batteries, maybe a Mute Jammer, what have you, maybe put some Surya Gates on it, and then play farther back inside of Attic. But because DZ did not favor a Closet push, it allowed Soniqs to play very freely off of that, and Rexen was in a very bad spot if DZ had have tried to go for the Closet, but he didn't. And because of that, and because there was only 30 seconds left, and DarkZero had not effectively droned it out, in part maybe because of the Mute Jammer that had been put down by Soniqs, it created this huge blind spot in DZ's execute. And were it not for the fact that Panba is just an extremely skilled player who can instinctively win gunfights even at a disadvantage, that is a lost round for DarkZero, but they turn it around. Grixer misses his shots onto the coverage. Maybe could have out-dueled Canadian after the post plan, but either way, it doesn't matter because he isn't able to get a single kill.
But even going into this round, I think Soniqs have a very good lesson to learn, which is if you're able to make a flank like that work, even if Yeti doesn't get a kill, if you're still able to cause that indecision, you can get close to a very winnable position against DZ, because Panabazoo, he was sitting inside a trophy. He could have watched that bedroom angle, but because they were concerned about Yeti coming up on the flank, he was watching Armory stairs, and that's what caused that lapse in a position that allowed Rexen to get there. But we see Yeti pushing very aggressively in small tower right now, whereas before, he was starting all the way down in the basement. So one of their key X factors on the flank, I was about to say, if he keeps aggressing this, he might fall, but right now, he might be able to make it back if he get past White Window.
I mean, Yeti is definitely feeling far more confident in this matchup than what we've seen from him through those first two play days. It was highlighted on the desk before we got into the match that Yeti's entry stats are the worst in the North American League. He is just cannon fodder round after round. Not great on defense, even worse on attack. And now Yeti's engagements in that second round were huge. And he was in a position again where in round number one, where he likely would have been, along with Rexen, one of the 2 points of contact for Soniqs. Here in round number 3, it's another double Dorms defense, and Yeti is still playing aggressively off the bomb site. So whether it's just the Soniqs realizing that he might be in a bit of a slump, or Yeti feeling particularly good, they're still using him in a way that could be to the detriment of Soniqs, but so far has worked out.
DZ just have to be careful not to get too tunnel vision, though Canadian now switching to the Buck could provide a very powerful operator that will cause Soniqs to be cautious where they step inside of the site. You can see him on that skeleton key, remodeling so many areas of the floor, but he takes a hell of a lot of damage on that attic rotate. Yeti now coming in for the flank, but sniped by NJR down below. Rexen is also there with a duo roam, but Panba is more than aware of that, albeit a little too late. Still gives the man advantage to DZ.
And it's immediately traded out, but again, Yeti, that statistic is not great. He dies early on, just as we were talking about it. So unfortunately for Yeti, you waste time, and again, roamers are not always tasked with getting kills. This is a big misconception in the game that when you play your aggressive roamer roles, you know, you'll think of a Vigil, you'll think of an Alibi, an Ella, a Jaeger, which are your prototypical roamers, including ranked, and most importantly in ranked. The average person thinks that your goal is to trade out. It's not necessarily. It's kill utility, kill time, kill drones, set up the rest of your team to succeed.
And so far, Soniqs have been doing a good job at killing that time. Only 30 seconds left now, doing a little bit more damage to the drones, but really it has been that time wasting that has been the big plus for Soniqs in this round so far. And DZ right now seem just relegated to pushing through angles with still plenty of Soniqs members alive.
Eclipse taking a lot of damage, but there's a bit more staying power from the Adrenal Surge of Panbazoo. Hyper at the top of White Stairs, sees Super but can't do anything about it, finally gets it, but he's lost his whole team in the process and loses his life to boot. Again, DZ having problems getting into the bomb site at the last possible second on these executes. The clock was very different back in round number 1, but DZ stormed the gates and they got gunned down. Round number 2, they stormed the gates and they came out 50-50 again because of Panbazoo. Round number 3, they stormed the gates, Soniqs again, like in round number 1, eat them alive. And there's only a single kill that comes out for DZ. And again, is this poor droning, even though they're spending all of this time? Is this bad intel work for DarkZero? Because Soniqs are capitalizing on every single engagement, on every single push that we've seen from DarkZero. Even if DZ did come out in round number 2, it's still not a great statistic for them.
No, it really isn't. And even there for DZ, we had 2 players just hopping through big window, and they had somebody on White Stairs to try to take down either, I believe it was Kansan or Super, it was a Smoke and a Jaeger, I believe, but try and deny those players who were looking at the big window, and they weren't able to get the kill until it was already a 3v1.
Oh, hold on a second here. 48% of you think that Canadian is older than Super. I know the answer to this question. It's not up for debate. Super is older. He is objectively older. How do 48% of you Oh my goodness, how do you get it wrong? How young do you think Super is?
Honestly, I think him shaving the beard, it's fooled a lot of people. I think it has.
I don't get it. People are saying it's
Give him credit.
whatever. He's not.
He's the pinnacle of youth right now.
Super is at least twice that age, at minimum.
But he looks half of it.
Okay. He looks 14. No, he doesn't. Anyway.
And like 17.
I digress. Soniqs coming out ahead on their second attempt on the Dorm's bomb site. Because they went to Laundry back in round number 1, they have another opportunity to hang on to this bomb site a second time. Will be a nice feather in their cap. First interaction happens with Soniqs coming out ahead, and then again they're eating DZ alive. Both Kansan and Yeti with these first 2 kills. Yeti padding those stats again, trying to trade off of that previous round where he was the first casualty. He's involved in the first bit of action, but he comes out on top. We're only 50 seconds into this round, and already it's a 5v3 for the Soniqs.
And also, important thing to note, well, of course, DZ are bringing 6 nades. They were bringing 4 operators that could have brought nades each, but Pambazu is currently running flashes on Finka. But because we lost that Sledge and that Yana, that is 2/3 of DZ's nade supply gone. And what do you have on the defense? You have a deployable shield, you have some bulletproof cameras, and specifically those Banshees, one of which was the death of NJR as he went in to peek those freezer stairs. So a lot of the utility you had to deal with some of these gadgets that SQ are bringing out, not as much, because Grixer is actually running a C4 instead of a shield on Warden, but still, a lot of that utility you could have used to destroy these bulletproof gadgets, they're no longer on the board.
We've been seeing a couple flashes be brought by some of these grenade-heavy operator lineups just so you can burn through the utility. I mean, if you bring 8 grenades, let's say, and then you bring breaches or a hard breach gadget, or even 3 flashes on the 5th operator, and if you have a Wamai up, if you have an Aruni up, if you have a Jaeger up, or even you see 2 of them being ran, then you're going to be in trouble, and those nades are not going to hit their mark. There's more blood for the Blood God right now. Pambazu inside a freezer attempts a pick onto Grixer. Grixer doesn't lose a single point of HP. In fact, everybody on Soniqs quite healthy. There's another from Grixer, a beautiful shot. Again, I always am perplexed as to how little play we see out of this Warden. Why? Because he's got a gun with virtually 0 recoil, and he's got an he's got not an ACOG, but a 1.5. He's not the one credited with the kill, by the way. It's a twitchy shot that comes in from the Wamai on Soniqs. But either way, they pick up their 3rd round. Right now, this is a very defender-heavy Oregon, and similar things from DarkZero there. Again, not really knowing where SQ is. Poor drone work, or just a tip of the hat to Soniqs for the way that they're using those mute jammers.
Well, definitely also a tip of the hat to Grixer right there, just able to play that position very well. It can be, even in a 5v3 that they were in, if you have attackers coming in from Laundry and coming in from Freezer, it can be very difficult to reconcile both of those sides and say, okay, where do I want to allocate my time? Where do I want to allocate my focus? But because 4 nades out of 6 were off the board so early, he can play that position with a lot more freedom. He can feel a lot more emboldened to take fights like that, and Canadian also came in late. The last guy with the nades was the last one alive, and he didn't come down through Laundry until the rest of his teammates were dead, so the utility to clear out that position was dealt with far earlier on in the round by Soniqs. Of course, now going to this tertiary site, hopefully the utility can stay alive for DarkZero here, but if they can't get a win on not just the tertiary site, but specifically kitchen and dining, one of the least played sites on any map, but specifically Oregon as well, it's looking rough for round number 6 later.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Oregon is that when you look at that tertiary site, the 3rd site the teams are going to go to, because both dorms and laundry are locked. So the top floor bomb site, the bottom floor bomb site, not available. But you've got that kitchen being the main component between the two. A lot of teams like that meeting defense. So the fact that you're gambling on kitchen shows to me that Soniqs have a lot of confidence in their defense, and more so, a lack of confidence in DZ's executes.
And one thing we always see, or usually almost always see, with a kitchen dining defense is where Super's position is playing right now. We see some players upstairs, you know, we have Kansan, we have Rexen, but Super playing in small tower, this is a very common position that seems very simple to clear. I mean, there's 2 windows in front of him, you can take small tower control, you should just be able to nade this out. But a lot of the times, we'll see not only players survive that position with the ADSs and, of course, magnets if they're on the board. Here it's just ADSs. We see players able to survive there, and if DZ can't clear that out, depending on what they do, that could be problematic if they want to go small tower side later.
I mean, there might be some theory here as to why this bomb site is showing up. Now, just looking at the North American League, Oregon's 3 times that it's been played. This is now the 4th time that we're seeing it get brought up. Laundry's supply room has been won 88% of the time by the defense. Soniqs won both times. That's perfectly in line with those numbers. Meeting hall and kitchen has been played 6 times, so that's the other bomb site. This is the one that Soniqs are not playing on. It's 0 for 6 for the defenders.
Ooh.
So that is not exactly a stat line that you want to hang on to. This bomb site in particular has only been played one other time in the NAL so far through this stage, and it wasn't won by the defenders. But only one time, that's not exactly a big enough sample size. And I mean, it might change right now, because we just hit the halfway point in the round, and Soniqs opened things up with a kill on both Hyper and Canadian.
Yeah, and Soniqs haven't really been seeking out these engagements actively. I mean, we saw like Yeti aggressive in small tower one round, but beyond that, they've been sticking to these extensions, and when DZ go to clear them out, like that right there, even a 50-50 engagement on the bunk bed, Rexen still wins it. Soniqs are simply just winning these fights, even when DZ is the one initiating them. Eclipse, of course, the ultimate initiator right now, the 1v5, gets only one kill, takes down Super down inside of security, but he knows there might be another on white stairs with a lengthy pre-fire, does not find Grixer. Soniqs find their 4th round.
And that's technically surrendered an unanswered opening pick all the way back in round number 2, the one that DZ ended up winning. And that was just an outward brawl. Other than that, Soniqs have either got the first pick or immediately traded back every single round. DarkZero popped their timeout. They're going to have one more round on attack, but I think that the greater issue that they're going to be looking at is what happens when they switch sides, because they're going to be moving to the favorable side of Oregon.
I would definitely agree, but at least here for round number 6, the final attack, the first attack after DarkZero take that tactical timeout, they get to go to dorms, which is the one site they have won so far, and it was definitely one that could have gone Soniqs' way had just a couple factors gone differently. I mean, in round number 3, it did go Soniqs' way fairly soon after, but it's still the one little ray of hope that DarkZero have had on their side so far. Maybe here, maybe if they focus a little bit more on pushing bedroom instead of just kind of, you know, lazily controlling that trophy side, maybe actively push there, because this white stairs big window play, it was middling in its success in round number 2, and it was a complete failure in round number 3.
Yeah. I mean, we focus a lot, obviously, on kills and the way that these things break, but the utility work from DarkZero has not been really anything worth pointing out either. So
fine,
it's very easy for us to look at, okay, they get the wall open, okay, they've taken white stairs, okay, they've got top of, you know, the top floor, and then they're looking to try and see what they can do down below. But the utility work has not really been that remarkable. DarkZero have not been able to really get started in this matchup, and it honestly looks very similar to what we saw to them against Space Station. I thought there'd be a bounce-back game here. So far, it looks like I'm wrong. But again, is this just a defender-sided Oregon? That's a question that will be answered when we switch sides.
Well, at least for right now, DZ will start pushing on and hope we see them a little bit less lethargic going into this round, as you were talking about. A little bit more energy, hopefully, right now.
Lots of energy, lots of focus.
Yeah, right now. Of course, we do see Super down below. He is alone at the moment. This is a ripe opportunity for Hyper to start moving on. I would assume he's dead. I would assume he gets naded here or peeked, but yeah, there we go. He actually dodges it for the time. Nope, he's not dead. Never mind. He's on 1 HP, though. He should be dead here momentarily.
Actually kind of surprised. He must not have a ton of faith in the shotgun. I don't know if they are aware that he's still in this position, because after the Yana nade goes in from Hyper, he's completely peeled off. Either they think that he might have got it down, or they think that he might have gotten away. That Nitro Cell will give his position away right now. And Super will head out, look the wrong direction. DarkZero opening up the round. They do it in an all-right style, but there's Grixer to answer back immediately on the Canadian.
I mean, you talked about those opening picks, how at worst, say for one round, Soniqs have been trading it out when they lose that opening duel. That's what you want to see. They're keeping it close and taking down that buck, which seemed to be the little difference that DZ were hoping would make the best out of their previous Dorms attack, and now that he's gone, that's a player who could watch the vertical from below, who could watch big window plays, who can't do that anymore.
They're getting a mark onto that Goyo canister from down below. DarkZero will need to do more than this, as they've equalized. They got that opening pick and then immediately lost Canadian. No buck from down below, but they got nades aplenty. NJR taking a ton of damage. Nade from Hyper goes off, does not connect. Kansan follows up on the Panbazoo. Suddenly, DarkZero now trail yet again. And Panbazoo was the difference maker when DarkZero succeeded on this bomb site. So who will step up? Because you need somebody to do that. Grab the reins with 30 seconds remaining. Because anybody, honestly, on DarkZero needs to do it. Not a lot of kills for the remaining 3 players on DZ. That might not inspire confidence, and things will get worse. As NGR immediately sledges through the door, he's met with the aggression of SQ, and it's Hyper in a 1v3 tussle with 3 players from Soniqs on the top of white stairs. Not a lot of time, and not a lot of hope right now.
10 seconds remaining.
SQ just dominating DarkZero in this first half, and it looks like Hyper's not even getting engagement. He walks away to try and preserve some modesty in those stats. Do it for Siege GG, as they say. First half in the books, Soniqs coming out with a very lopsided 5-1 scoreline.
And of course, the play from them has been solid. It's not like, DZ are 100% throwing the game. Soniqs definitely look like they have their fundamentals on point. They're playing off of each other. Canton, especially inside of the site, has usually, once the execute comes through, he's usually one of the first people to get a kill and to make DZ's execute even more problematic. But to use a term that Cookies uses a lot in Challenger League, the athleticism on DZ right now, it's just not there.
What the hell does he mean by that? The athleticism. They're sitting at a desk. What is he? The athleticism.
So what he means by that...
Cookies, you answer me. You can answer me.
I'll answer for Cookies, and we'll see if I do it justice. When CJ says the athleticism is not there, DZ aren't getting mobile. They're not getting active. When they're taking these fights, they look like they're going in there half-heartedly. They're not going in there with the confidence that they're going to win it. They just go in, and it seems like they're already worrying that what happens if I lose this, and they're just not going in like they're thinking they're going to win this fight. And that's how a lot of these gunfights have been. And going on to the defense, sure, on Oregon, you might have a better time, but take Hyper playing that position inside of Freezer. Remember the confidence that Grixer had when he was swinging that position? If Hyper's playing the same spot, and we see him struggle to even get one kill or go 1-for-1, that's alarm bells in my head that this might be over.
Well, the first half is in the books. We're underway now with the Soniqs taking their timeouts and it not doing that much for them. In terms of statistics, Soniqs obviously up 5-1. DarkZero got a diffuser down one time, and it was on the round that they triumphed on. That was back in round number 2. In terms of opening duels, Soniqs won or immediately refragged in 5 of the 6 rounds. There was only one time where DarkZero had that leg up in terms of man count. That was in round number 2, the one that they won. Soniqs went for a tertiary bomb site, the Dining Kitchen bomb site, and succeeded. So it's now been played twice here in the North American League. 1 win for the attackers, 1 win for the defenders. Very first defense for DarkZero, they're going to opt to go down to the bottom floor in laundry and supply. Soniqs in the first 45 seconds of action, still very deep into the discovery phase, and will drone out. Maybe see if they have the same degree of difficulty that DarkZero had at determining the positions of the Soniqs players.
I mean, DarkZero right now, they aren't playing in any, off positions at the moment. Maybe one is like Hyper is playing over by the laundry double right now, but it's still a minute in. He's got plenty of time to rotate back and maybe take a more default position if they want to. But what can certainly be said is, similar to what SQ did on their defenses on basement, not playing too far out, just playing close to the site right now, not trying to get too aggressive. But even then, we saw Yeti try to go up Freezer stairs for a little bit, see if anybody was not droning. DZ, they are full turtling at the moment, not giving up even an inch of ground. But Soniqs are probably going to have a pretty good idea where a lot of these players are, and Rexon is already looking for an opening.
And Soniqs' time management has been impeccable so far. DZ, when they attacked Laundry on the very first round, wanted into the bomb site with about 50 seconds or so left. DarkZero now watch Soniqs do something very similar to them. Freezer control already taken by Soniqs. Hatches fully opened up. Utility starting to be worn down now by DarkZero. And it's a very similar Warden in a similar spot for DarkZero. It's Hyper to see all the way towards Freezer, but forced out of his position. There you go for DarkZero, opening things up. Yeti and Kansan removed from the equation. It's 5 versus 3. And DZ can hang on with Rexon still inside of Freezer. Soniqs not looking as formidable on that opening play as we've seen from them on defense. But again, Oregon defense seems to be a very different beast.
Indeed it does. They still have some useful utility. Final flashbang goes out, but Rexon has a couple smokes that might be able to block off some useful lines of sight, either to push further into Freezer or to push somewhere else. Super's also now rotated to bottom laundry, but with NJR still in long, if he can take down Super, he can turn his full attention to Freezer, and that's game over for DarkZero.
Eclipse has the shotgun pointed in that direction, and he's going to look up, and down goes one. Another lined up 2, but it's Hyper to capitalize, and a flawless denied by Super. So at least 1 kill for Soniqs, but it's impactless at the moment. 15 seconds left means that it's likely to be impactless for the remainder of the round. Super breaking even in terms of stats. You saw his statistics before we got into the matchup. Not particularly strong, but he'll try to bait out a final kill. Does he die, or does he just let the clock hit 0? It's the latter. DarkZero put together a win on the very first defense of theirs, and again, it looks eerily similar to what we saw when DZ was on attack. Attackers push in, they get beaten in gunfights. They have limited utility, they have limited vision. Defense capitalizes and keeps and maintains that lead.
Yeah. My fears aren't completely settled, of course, but that definitely, especially with DZ able to get both opening kills as SQ went in for the execute, I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable as we go in for the remaining of these defensive rounds. Just able to play those positions, and even all the utility that was dumped into long that NJR had to deal with, took a lot of damage, but still managed to remain alive, and then even get the second kill after Canadian opened things up. So I'm not completely, over the moon, still cautious about DZ, but that was definitely a round that we needed to see, and hopefully we can see them even have a little bit more energy going into dorms.
Well, the athleticism of
Thank
DarkZero
you.
in that round, significantly better.
Yeah, they were on the treadmill for a little bit, but they're not doing pull-ups yet.
Even if they weren't really moving.
Not getting active.
The defense from DZ was stalwart, and I would say it's reminiscent of that scene from Wall-E. When all of the travelers are in their chairs, very comfortable, very immobile.
Yes.
It's very similar to that. It's just that was the DarkZero defense. They played full turtle,
Yes.
and it worked out very well for them. Again, I am a little surprised. No Ying, even though she remains unbanned. These teams do like to bring a Ying, and we're not seeing it right now. Super plays Buck or Ying with that can opener hard breach quite frequently on this map. Maybe not after things have changed. I don't know. Maybe they think the meta obviously works a different way. You now see Super on the Lion instead. The hard breach that's being brought doesn't exist, by the way.
Yeah,
there is
it's
not a
not real.
single hard breacher here. So Soniqs instead just wanting to go for this pugilistic lineup instead of more sophistication. It's a 4 DarkZero, by the way. Dwarves defense.
Just to get that out there. Of course, the no hard breach play is you know, on Oregon, not gonna lie, it's a little risky. Not even a secondary hard breach gadget on the board.
Pretty surprising.
Yeah, pretty surprising. Even if you want to go for this, you know, obviously, you know, Soniqs are the pinnacle of the lurking play style on attack in North America, especially, you know, bringing that Nook on the board. They're one of the first teams really to start using it a lot more. But no hard breach, definitely a bold move. But if they're able to pick off some of these roamers like Eclipse down below in security with that Nook, who's already starting to creep up, Z could go big, but Super down below finds Canadian.
You said picking off one of the roamers down below. It wasn't the player you mentioned, but it was still a member of DarkZero. So Soniqs looking to move to match point, and a first kill is a good position to be in. Eclipse down below inside of security, watching with those mute jammers in play. No hard breach. That means for Soniqs, they need to get one of those nades from below.
Yes.
Get pressure off of one of your main avenues in. If you want to take Attic and jump in through the window, you need to dislodge the player that's going to be sitting over there. And there's one of those nades.
One.
It might not be from down below, but Yeti tosses it in. Dorms is now wide open as NJR falls to that explosive. Eclipse is still down in security with a nitro cell in hand. But if his team's numbers continue to dwindle, he won't be anywhere near as effective. And all of a sudden, Bambazoo's looking in the wrong way, but it becomes a much closer matchup. Eclipse and Hyper bounce back. Rexon and Kansan maybe breaking into the bomb site without the correct information. Eclipse has been down, trying to get back to assist with his teammates, and it puts Hyper, who has suddenly become a more potent force in a 1v3, sustaining a lot of damage, scampering off into Attic and now repositioning through that Dorm's rotate. Diffuser going down, and at the top of White Stairs, it's Grixer to move his team to map point. It's 6-2 in favor of Soniqs.
I gotta say, even though they lost the round, I like what DZ did there in the mid-round. I like seeing Hyper run out of that door, getting aggressive, and just going for some more off-the-wall plays to try to bring that man advantage back. I was worried when we were seeing DZ on attack, they'd be in a 3v5 and they'd just be like, oh, crap, what are we gonna do now? But nope, once they're in that 3v5, they start pushing, they actually start getting those kills. Problem is, that was about the only thing, were those two plays individually. I mean, Canadian on attack and defense on Oregon, you can go and look back as far as you can. He is always in the basement at some point in the round. He's either the one solo clearing down below, or he is the one playing there in basement the entirety of the round. So Super goes down as Lion. He knows this without even needing the drone. That Canadian is probably going to be the one in the basement. They get that kill, and then Soniqs just do what they do best. Play Nook, play Grixer, get some nades from positions, and if the nades don't work, you let the guns do the talking. Soniqs just played their game, and DZ fought back a little bit, but really not that much.
If you concede control of Kitchen, there are so few spots that are not going to end up with you doing damage from a nade from below. Time and time again, if you don't put a Buck in that position, which obviously Soniqs not running the Buck in the previous round, not doing it again as it's another Dorms defense. Instead, you use what we affectionately refer to as those depth charges, those grenades from down below, and suddenly you effectively step on a landmine without knowing it, and you get blown sky high. Now, usually, there's a nade from below that does damage to the player inside of Dorms, but because Eclipse was holding that position for DarkZero, it was Soniqs having to go through the main window, which is where you saw Yeti go with his nade. Another thing, too, just for that downstairs defense, as we are now on Dorms, but one thing that I did want to focus on, no Flores. That means that trying to take blue becomes extremely challenging. If there's an Aruni on the board, Jaeger, and Wamai, all three of those operators are available, so you can bring all three of them together. It means that blue is going to be held in the favor of the defense far more because you lose one of the best assets for the attackers. And that's why that Flores ban is so crucial, and why we saw the teams when they attacked that basement bomb site forego blue control.
Yeah, and both teams have used a different flavor of it. Soniqs prioritized the Jaeger and Wamai more. DZ have focused more on the Wamai and the Aruni, but both of those combinations are probably a result of the Flores ban, though. They're also good individually.
Now we got some subterranean homesick blues going on down here, as you don't need a weatherman to know the way the wind blows, but Canadian is in the basement yet again.
Oh!
And Hyper picking off Super is a good starting point for DarkZero. It's match point for Soniqs. Canadian still down below on that lurk, on that roam. Soniqs will need to figure out his position, and if they can do something to punish him. They will come across these mute jammers now towards the top floor where the bomb site lays, at the halfway point of this round. Similar setup inside of security from DarkZero too, and here's one of these depth charges, as we referred to it as.
Ooh.
It does a little bit of damage to NJR, but he was just out of reach. Adrenal Surge comes in from Rexon, tops everybody back up. Eclipse in the same spot that we saw before, again down in security. Holding onto a Nitro Cell, very strong position. And if he gets pushed from multiple angles, he is ripe for the picking, and he just can't control the recoil to take out the Nook of Grixer. Maybe a shotgun can do just that. All the while, explosives raining in around him, leaving us in the final minute for Soniqs to find their footing and try to put this match away.
Soniqs have really not found ground so far. I mean, when you lose super early on, you can go clear Canadian in a 5v5, but when you're in a 4v5, do you want to dedicate time, especially with 45 seconds left to clear out Canadian? We saw Grixer moving down there earlier, but Canadian has now moved up the stairs, probably going to go back to the site, and they still haven't cleared out Eclipse either. If DZ or if Soniqs want to go for a white push or a big window play, everything that could go wrong, the security position or Canadian on the roam, they have to push through it.
And DZ is lined up so well. They've got sights at the top of white, they've got Canadian at the top of Armory, and he finds two for the price of one. There it is. A jump in from the big window will be dealt with by Eclipse. Pistol out and sidearm for Canadian, not good enough, but a flawless round as Panbazoo picks up the final kill. That's the coverage that you need to see from DarkZero. Sonic struggled to clear out security. They struggled on the roam. They surrendered that first opening pick, and then they didn't seem to know what to do with that mid-round. And how do you transition to the bomb site? Well, Dorms is a bomb site in this game where if you hang on to it, the final 20 seconds, even if you're at a disadvantage in terms of numbers, there are a lot of hard walls that you cannot shoot through. And if you don't bring the appropriate amount of hard breach, even the soft walls become way too much for you to deal with. You've got three main entry points. You're going to try to go up the top of white, you're going to try to go up the top of Armory, or even just through Trophy, through that master doorway, or you're going to go pop through big window. DZ had sights on all of those areas except for Trophy, and they picked right because Soniqs decided to go through the main stairs, which is where Canadian was playing, and he had Pamba for backup.
And also in that initial Dorms attack, especially when you saw Yeti get that nade kill on NGR from big window, they were relying, not entirely, but definitely a lot on having that nade be the deciding factor to start moving in. They had 8 nades that time, and Parker, none of them really hit. None of them really did all that much, unfortunately.
No. We saw some damage being done to NJR a couple times, and I think one of those nades might have been used on Eclipse, but it didn't really do much damage.
No real openings created.
Exactly. Now, one of the operators that I fixated on has finally shown up, and it is the only real authentic hard breacher for Soniqs. Ying
Ironic.
is here, and it's Super playing this role that he's played time and time again with that secondary hard breach gadget. We call it the can opener. It works as kind of like a half, 1/3 of an exothermic charge.
Get a hatch.
You can get a hatch with it, and it's great for hatches. And honestly, with this being a downstairs defense, DZ can go back here. They won it on their very first defense. They're going to hope to try to do the same thing. With this lineup that we see from Soniqs, they're going to want to get the hatches. They need freezer control. Ying's focus is going to be on Pill, on that electrical box near where Panbazoo is playing, but you've got to clear out Pillar. I would be very surprised looking at this lineup if Soniqs try to take blue, so it will be yet again another attempt on the bottom floor for the attackers before going blue. That makes it much tougher because you don't have as many avenues into the bomb site. You need freezer control, and you have to flush out the defender playing in that area. No attacker has been able to do that yet.
Yeah.
None of these attacking teams have done it successfully.
I'm also intrigued to see, we see Rexon just quickly moving down Freezer right now, maybe trying to find something over here, but nope, he backs up fairly quickly. I think Hyper was already prepped. No, not with the C4. I just saw him holding something. I was like, what's he holding? It was an electric claw. So he was waiting for somebody to start moving towards that hatch. He's now electrified it, and they have to call Yeti on over to open that one up. So because you have that Cade, Soniqs have to deal with it, but unfortunately they have to spend a little bit of time on these electrified hatches to use that Maverick to open it up. And for the attacks so far, which on both DarkZero and in some cases XQ have struggled to get executes, you know, before the 30-second mark at times, this is one thing you wish you probably didn't have to deal with.
Absolutely. The Kaid here, the pick that we see from Hyper is obviously very smart, not that there's ever really a bad time for him as an operator. He's suitable on pretty much every single bomb site, but it just took about 30 to 40 seconds for Soniqs to get those hatches opened up. The can openers have both been used as well from Super, so there you have utility coming out. I was actually wrong about this. It is a blue take, so for the first time, I didn't think it would be. I thought, okay, you look towards the freezer, you look towards that E-box hatch, pillbox, whatever teams call it, and you go from there. Not the case.
Well, I thought that, okay, now I'm reconsidering, because initially I saw, okay, if they're going to go for a bunker or a blue take, maybe they have Rexon smoke elbow, then they push in off the Candelas, but no, now they're moving over towards Freezer and Laundry. This is completely different. First Candela missed Parker, but they're just rotating with very little time left.
Completely botched. Rexon is covering fire. Nade goes off. No damage is done to him. Checking his corners. First kill for Soniqs. Methodical as they continue to walk in, marching their way towards a victory, and the bodies for DZ hitting the floor. Canadian on a stead by that bomb chassis. Rexon dropped, firing back, but only one kill remains. That's it. Soniqs searching for their very first victory, and they get it. Over DarkZero, 7-3. An impressive showing on a map and on bomb sites that maybe DarkZero wasn't fully prepared for. And the NAL champs, who've had a bit of a slump in Stage 1 and at the start of Stage 2, they got on the board with a big 3 points.
And it's also